Hey guys, this is Allison from Allykatkreations. How are you? If you can like, share, and subscribe to my channel, that'd be amazing. And if you get anything from my work, an epiphany, a mic drop moment, a new author to read, a new book to explore, please consider supporting my work. And all the links will be in the description box below. Oh, so I haven't really posted much. I've been really busy the last few days. Not only was it like minus 35 with the degrees in the real field wind chill. But yesterday I had to start getting into the house. My car does not do well in snow. I don't have snow tires and it's a low profile. So yesterday was very way better outside, but very scary for me to be driving. I'm not afraid to drive in the snow. Otherwise, why the hell would I move out to snowbank country? It's just I don't have a vehicle that's proper for this weather. So I have to get a new one eventually, or a new used whatever SUV. But I'm starting to move in. Today I had the internet installed in the house and it works. So I will be able to do stuff once I move in officially Saturday. I'm still at the hotel because I still have to go to the storage facility and I have to order appliances. It's a lot. It's a lot. It's exhausting. I'm in so much pain. I took 3 trips to the storage facility and I got some stuff out and I'm swollen and in a lot of pain. That I had a shovel. Fun times. But that's okay. Things are looking up. I met one of my neighbors from across the street, super sweet guy. Very humble. Yeah. So far, I mean, everything is going great. I bought some paint. I'm painting. The kitchen cabinets have to be done. They just slap paint on it. Yeah. So I'm doing it my own colors and my own touches, and that's just going to be the way it is. But I just wanted to get back to everybody because I'm going to hit the ground running and I will hopefully be able to do readings in between of me moving and getting settled into the house because there is a lot of work to do, but I don't really have I don't have my furniture. Like I just took boxes. I'm hoping I could do a couple of runs tomorrow to at least get something moving in there that I could put and prop things on. I bought this little mini table at Target today just to put the laptop on when I'm working. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff in the storage facility that the guys Tetrised, if you know that game. And I don't know how long it's going to take for me to get to these things. So I have to have my own patience. I'm really upset and pissed because I probably lost, like in terms of loss, meaning things are broken for sure, have to be. They packed a lot of things on top of things on top of things on top of things on top of things, and they weren't weight conscious when they did when they did that. So I most likely lost a lot of things. I'm not saying that I did. I don't know until I get things open and cracked, but and not to say also that it was minus 30 below zero. So I don't know if my electronics are even going to work. Anywho, just putting that out there. Why I haven't been on? I've been busy. I've been hurting. I got co-host number one over here. The other one's under the bed. I'm going to try not to butcher things. Next order of business is to find a dentist and get new teeth. Even if it's dentures, I don't care. All this rot needs to come out of my face. And I am not taking my teeth down, even though they fall down now. Yeah. Welcome to new life, new cycle, and a hell in a handbasket. Chapter 16. This is going to be from the Book of God, from the Book of Fragapatti. So, like the last time, I'm going to start with the Book of God first, then I'm going to move into the other book. When Asha went away from the king's palace, Zarathustra met him, and they went together to the prison where the guardsmen were confined, prior to execution on the morrow at sunrise, and there came 400 of the converts of Asha. And when they stood around about the prison, Zarathustra said unto them, Stand ye in the altar crescent of the living God, for his power is upon me, and I will deliver this prison. And the keeper of the prison and also his attendants woke up and came with spears, saying, Despiser, despiser. Or by the king of the sun ye shall die. Zarathustra said, Art thou greater than Ahura Mazda? Thrust then thy spear against my breast. The keeper did so, saying, Thy size is nothing to me, thou boaster. But lo, the shaft was broken in 1,000 pieces, neither touched the blade against his garments. Seeing which the other spearsmen feared, Zarathustra walked up to them and took their spears from them. And the Zarathustrians stood in the form of a living altar. And Zarathustra laid his hands against the front wall of the prison, saying, In thy wisdom and power, O Ahura Mazda, deliver thou this prison. And behold, the front wall opened as a door openeth, and the prisoners came out unharmed. Zarathustra said, On the morrow, the king will decree to death every faithist within the city. Go ye, therefore, while it is yet night, and command all my people to rise at once and depart out of the city. I will lead them to a place of safety, so that the same night the faithists fled beyond the walls. And it came to pass that on the next day, when the king heard what had transpired in regard to the prison, he decreed to death every Zarathustrian found within the city, even as prophesied by Zarathustra. But they were already gone and were in the forest of goats. And there were of them 4,630 men, women, and children. Ahura Mazda spake to Zarathustra, the all pure, saying, Explain these things to my people, for they shall not dwell in darkness, nor in fear. Zarathustra said, What shall I tell them, O Ahura Mazda? Ahura Mazda said, My people are united. My people are delivered out of the evil city. To themselves, of themselves, and by themselves have I delivered them as a separate people. I found an easy way to unite them. I went not by a dark road. This is no miracle, but the manifestation of faith in the all light. Take them further away from Oahspe, far away in the forest, and ask, and since Asha is an old man and learned above all other men, he shall be the Araba over them. I don't know if I said that right, but Araba, something like that. Ahura said, but as for thee, O Zarathustra, thou art young and strong. Thou shalt choose 50 men from amongst my people, well learned and strong, full of vigor, and they shall be thy companions, and thou shalt visit the large cities of Japheth and Shem and Ham. For 4 years shalt thou travel, delivering the Zarathustrian law. But at the end of that time, thou shalt return to Oahspe, and to this people my first chosen. And behold, after that, Asha shall go with thee to Oahspe, and thou shalt rise thy hand against the city, and it shall fall. Zarathustra then explained these things to the people, and thereafter took them to the valley of Yin-Shi by the river witch, like literal witch. And he divided them into 3 large cities and 4 small ones, after the manner of the Ihins, the sacred people, white and yellow. And he gave them fathers, rabbis, and made Asha chief father over them all, over the others. Thus was founded the Zarathustrian religion, the Ahura Mazdian law, and the Ormazdan law, the Zarathustrian law. And Zarathustra chose 50 men, well learned and vigorous, not old, and they departed to establish the Zarathustrian law in the cities of the east and south. Ahura Mazda led them forth, speaking to Zarathustra, the all-pure, telling him whether to go and directing him to the nearest roads over the mountains and plains and across the rivers, and wheresoever they went. Ahura Mazda provided them with beasts of burden and beasts to ride on, converting their owners to the Ormazdian law, who gave them all things required. The first large city Zarathustra came to was Tisgau, on the plains of Jau, high walled with wood and stone. And when he came to the gate thereof, the keeper demanded his name and business, speaking in another language. And Zarathustra understood him not. Then came Ahura Mazda, answering the keeper to his own tongue, saying, I am a servant of the creator Orzmand. I come to provide and prove immortal life before the king. Send then to thy king, and he will admit me and my people. So the keeper sent to the king, who commanded that the Zarathustra come before him. And when he and his attendants were thus before the king, and the king said, Art thou he whom the king of the sun had spoken? And what is thy business with me? Thy king, even the king of kings, is mad. Then answered Ahura Mazda, saying, Zarathustra, of whom the sun king spake, is before thee. I am here to prove to thee many things pertaining to what is written in the book of holies. But ere I utter many words, I pray thee that thy son Hazin and thy wife Hitias and thy daughters Petu, Zu, Zehin, and Zabi be also present. The king said, How knowest thou the names of my people? And Ahura Mazda said, Here stand guardian spirits, Ashars, and they speak to me. Chief among them is Ayah, thy grandfather, who slew himself, and next to him are the king's people in spirit. No, West, Lut, Gantz, Mithis, Nimuk, Wuhin, Rooks, and Patsuku. The king was concerned, for many of these had been slain in wars, nor knew he how Zarathustra discovered their names. So he sent for his wife and son and daughters, and they all went into the inner chamber, Zarathustra with them. They spake Ahura Mazda to the king, saying, Think not that Asha is mad, because he hath given up all he had and gone to live with the poor. The gods call all men mad who do otherwise, especially rich men, and kings and rulers, for such men set value on things that they cannot retain, but during earth life as most. Asha setteth value on that which will forever be lasted. I would that all men would do as Asha hath done. Because of unbelief in the Great Spirit, man hath set himself up as the all highest, and his trade hath become war and destruction. I came not to persuade thee to give away the kingdom, nor thy riches, nor yet for any glory or profit for myself. I speak for the hosts being slain, tribe against tribe, city against city. I speak for the millions of spirits in darkness who dwell on the battlefields. Ahunamazda thus gained the attention of the king, and meanwhile the angels who accompanied him took on forms, looking like mortals, and presently the king and his family looked about and saw them. And they were frightened, and the king drew his sword, saying, Who have entered thus uncalled? But as he advanced, behold, the spirits disappeared. The king was amazed. Ahunamazda continued, saying, Concern not thyself, because the spirits show themselves. Neither call thou these appearances miracles. Spirits are always present, but because they thus clothe themselves with corporeal parts, thou hast for the first time seen them. Whilst thou was quiet, they came. With the sudden passion, they disappeared. The king said, While will they come again? Then answered Ahunamazda, saying, Since thy wife and thy daughters are frightened, why should they appear again? Yet thou, hear me thou, O king, since thy youth up thou has been prepared for this. Thy wife is half-breed with the Ihins and the sacred people. The Ihins were preserved by the gods to this end, for they are as the leaven prepared for the resurrection of all the races of men. Because of this great virtue in thy wife, the spirits of the dead can show themselves before thee. Whilst Ahunamazda has thus spake, the angels again assumed Sagris, and there were present several spirits whose mortal lives have been cut short by the king's own sword. Chief of these was Takinthea, one-time king of the city of Tezgau. The Sagris spake to the king, saying, Think not that I am dead. O king, I am not dead, save in the corporal part. As by the sword thou didst cut me off, so by thy sword shalt thou be pierced through. Next spake Tusain, another Sagris, saying, Till thou art dead, O king, and thy soul cast into hell, I will not cease to torment thee. Next spake Gohan, another Sagris, saying, Before yesterday I brought venom from rotten flesh, and inoculated thee with the breath of my mouth. Thou shalt cough blood and foul-smelling corruption. Next spake Ode, saying, I am come from the land of the dead, O king, where the torments of hell for thee. Then speak, we say, a Sagris, saying, I am the first wife. Thy slewest thou me. Was not the world wide enough? Thus the spirits continue to speak, suffered by Ahunamazda to manifest their evil desires and passions in their own way. Nor did one spirit appear who had a single good word of cheer for the king. Then the king spake, saying, Go away, spirits or devils. I will see no more. And with that he swung his sword about fiercely. But when he quieted it a little, Ahunamazda spake to him, saying, I declare to thee, O king, the air is filled with the spirits of the dead, and because they were slain by thee, thy lie in wait for thy soul. When thou shalt die, think not that by slaying a man thou art rid of him. Only the corporeal part is within thy power. The soul never dieth. Arzmand is just. Whom thou hast injured, thou shalt restore. The king said, If a man be a bad man, I kill him. Is it not a great good? Ahunamazda said, To kill him is a great evil. Thou shouldest convert him to good. The king said, But if he belong to me? Then Ahunamazda said, No man belongeth to thee. The same creator created all men. From him are all men created, and I belong to him. Oh, yeah. The king said, but I have possession of them. They are mine. If thy creator is strong than I, let him take them. Ahura said, to take them from thee would be no honor, but for thee to deliver them to thy own honor. Now, whilst the king's mind was thus engaged, the angels fell to work to demonstrate their presence and power in some unusual way, and accordingly, they cut loose the tapestry about the walls and let it fall to the floor, and with great explosion, the queen and her daughter rose up and fled. Poltergeists. Oh my. Gotta love that. The king was angered and thrust his sword at Zarathustra, but lo, it broke into 100 pieces, and yet no part touched Zarathustra. Ahura said, save thou repent of thy evil ways, and I will withdraw my holy angels from this house. And thou shalt bear witness that ere the morning sun appears, this palace shall not be left standing. But the king was hardened. So when Ahura perceived there was no repentance in the king, he withdrew the Lord and his Ashars, abandoning the palace to the evil spirits. But he sent guardian spirits to ensure the queen and her daughters to flee from the house that night, and they so fled. And the spirits of darkness went to the king's enemies and inspired them to go against the palace, and they so went and destroyed it. The next day, Zarathustra went about in the city, which was in great tumult. And Ahura spake through him to the people, and in one day he received more than 1,000 followers. And when the king saw this, a decree Zarathustra to death, offering a reward to whomever so would slay him. The next day he preached again before the people and received great addition to his followers. And the king ordered his soldiers, of whom they were 10,000, to fall upon Zarathustra and his people and destroy them. But Ahura had prophesied this to his adherents beforehand and had advised them to flee. And many escaped before morning, but there were also many whom also still within the walls where the soldiers came upon them. Ahura stretched his hands upward, saying, fire of thy fire, O Father, give me here a wall of fire. And there rose up a wall of fire betwixt them and the soldiers, and the latter, seeing this, turned and fled, crying, Shuri, Shuri, signifying spirit. Thus Zarathustra led them out of the city, and not one man or woman or child was injured. But it came to pass that the deeds done through Zarathustra were greatly exaggerated in relating them. So the people who had not yet seen him believed the world was about to come to an end. Thus the king lost all discipline over the city, and the people lived without law or order, robbing one another or destroying whatever stood before them. My goodness. Zarathustra called his 50 companions before him, saying, because these people are delivered from the tyrant, they will become his enemy. A people long oppressed love vengeance. This would thwart the Arsmanian law. Take them, therefore, away from the city, dividing them into groups amongst yourselves, and I will send angels capable of interpreting languages. Ahura said, behold, a God cometh not to accomplish at random, nor cometh he to one man only, in order to overthrow the evil of a whole world. Ye have been prepared for this work since the day of your birth. My angels have been with you, and ye are a part of my army. Now this shall happen to you after ye have divided these people and conducted them into your forests. You shall begin to speak with new tongues, and these people will understand you. And ye shall build altars of worship to Arsman, teaching these people songs and prayers and dancing, explaining to them the Arsmanian law. Zarathustra said, "Wait not for me to come, nor for the voice of Ahura Mazda, but do ye in faith as I have commanded, and the voice will be with you." So those who fled from the anarchy of the city were led away half a day's journey, and there encamped. And the companions of Zarathustra, who were styled Inquas, were entranced and comprehended the language of the people and could talk with them understandingly. So they built altars to Oahspe and taught the people worship and caused them to take an oath not to kill any man or woman or child, nor beast, nor bird, nor any animal created alive. And they bound them on the oath taken unto thy to eat only fruit and nuts and roots and bread, according to the Oahspe law. And they divided them into families of tens and families of hundreds and of thousands, giving them a rabbah for each according to the Zarathustrian law. But Zarathustra returned into the city, and Ahura Mazda clothed him about with fire at night and with clouds in the daylight, so that people could behold his power, and no man dare raise a hand against him. Then he commanded the people to gather together all the skulls on the walls and the scalps that were hung about the houses and on the poles, and they were taken away and burned. As for the soldiers, he disbanded them, and thus the king was rendered helpless, left to stroll about cursing. And Zarathustra advised the people to go out of the city and live. And they so went forth by thousands, beginning new lives. After that, Zarathustra left the place, and at once it was filled with Drujas, and they went to the Druks and inspired them to fire and plunder. And it came to pass in not many days, the great city of Tezgo, with all its temples and towers and palaces, were reduced to a heap of ashes. Zarathustra went before the people, hundreds of thousands of them, speaking by the voice of Ahura Mazda, saying, "I hear certain ones saying, whoever saith value on earthly things above heavenly things, it is good for him to have fire and destruction. All things come of the Father Oahspe, or by his permission. When he withdrew his hand from a wicked city, evil spirits rushed in." Ye have said, who are evil spirits? Why doth not Oahspe destroy them? I say unto you, evil spirits are both yourselves and the dead, whom ye have slain in passion, still lived to torment you in spirit. Ye had their skulls hung on the gates and walls, your temples of science, your portailed with the scalps of your enemies. The spirits of these people still live, though their bodies be dead, and they obsess you to deeds of wickedness. This is the Oahspe law. When a man is dead, ye shall either burn the body or bury it in the ground, that the spirit be not troubled. But ye bound them in spirit. Tezgo was an eyesore in the sight of them that were slain for its glory. They delighted to see it destroyed. More than ye have lost by the fire, these spirits have gained tenfold, for now the gods can deliver them in heaven. For which reasons I declare unto you that it is a great good that Tezgo is destroyed. The world is large, the lands are very wide. Kill no man, nor woman, nor child. They are Oahspe's. Neither shall ye build large cities. They are a curse on the face of the earth. Neither shall ye live alone, for such become bound to self, but dwell in families of tens and hundreds and thousands. Hath not the Father given you an example in the Ihens? They killed not, nor take that which is another's, nor are given to lust, nor war, nor quarrelsomes. That's what we need to get back to, people. And yes, I got very hot before. And I know it's hard to see, but co-host number 2, Ethan, is out. He's making this. The voice said, "Where's the king's wife? Hittis. Where is Hassing, the prince, and the princess Petu, and Zu, and he and Zabi?" The multitude answered, "They are gone." After the voice said, "I say unto you, they were gone, but they are returning. Presently they will be here. They shall speak before you." And sure enough, presently a king's wife and son and daughters came. Hittius said, "Behold, Tezgau of Oahspe is burned. Who have seen the king?" He-in and Zabi, the princess, were very young girls, and they cried for their father. He had slain himself, cutting his bowels across with his sword. Ahunamazda spake through Zarathustra, saying, "Come thou, Hittis, and stand on the rock so that all can see, and bring thy children." She came and stood beside Zarathustra, and now the voice said, "Let this bear witness whether the dead do not live in spirit." Haitius, I think I'm saying that name right, I don't know, said, "With my own eyes have I seen the spirits of the dead, with my own ears heard them talk. My children shall hold up their hands if these things be true." The children held their hands up. Again, Haitius said, "Where is my husband, the king?" While as they were standing on the rocks, lo and behold, the ghost of the king rose up before all the people. And he-in and Zabi cried out, "Here is my father." Then spake Ahunamazda, saying to the soul of the king, "Knowest thou that thou art dead?" The soul of the king spake loud, so that all could hear him. He said, "No, I am not dead, but I have done a foolish thing. I cut my bowels across." Then Haitius said, "I fear indeed the king is dead, and this is his spirit. He looks strangely." Ahunamazda said, "There is no cut. Thy belly is unharmed." By the spirit persisted, saying, "I thrust my hands in the hole, and thou sayest there is no wound? Thou art mad, I remember thee. It was thou who brought us back these phantom enemies to torment me." Ahunamazda said, "What enemies seest thou?" The spirit answered, "All I ever slew, 1,000 or more. Away, ye torments, ye mockers, I will thrust you through." The soul of the king then stamped and raved, for he saw the spirits of the dead, but the audience saw them not, though they saw him. He was in Sagris form. Ahunamazda said, "I say unto thee, O king, thou art dead and risen from the dead. Couldst thou but awake to this fact, thou wouldst be risen in spirit. Neither canst thou be delivered till these thy enemies are also delivered." Then answered the spirit of the king, saying, "I banish thee from the city of Tezgau. Now, nor shalt thou ever return under penalty of death." Ahunamazda said, "I tell thee, O king, the city of Tezgau is destroyed. Verily is there not one house standing in all the place." The soul of the king answered, saying, "Thou tormentest me, thou madman. Thou assertest lies in the face of the facts. Begone, wretch. Oh, what my belly were not cut across. I would at thee with vengeance." Ahunamazda withdrew the Sagris, and the king could not be seen. Nevertheless, his spirit continued cursing and raging all the same. The queen, Haitius, comprehended the matter fully, and her heart was heavy with sorrow. Ahunamazda said to her, "Remember the faith of thy forefathers, the Ihins. Be thou strong in the Oahsmanian law, and these sorrows will pass away. Nor is there anything in heaven or earth can satisfy the soul that is short before the law." To her, that can say, I live the all highest, happiest path, sure foundation. And whoever so perceiving the dead are in torments, let them pray for them, singing anthems unto the Father. Intercede ye with all light to bestow them with peace. Think not that because of your prayers the all light runneth with Ioma to feed the spirits of the dead. But this I declare unto you, that by peace and joy in your devotions to the Father, the spirits are thus reclaimed to virtue and exhilaration. These things will I show unto you, yet this night be steadfast and hopeful in faith. And when the evening hath come, I will again call up the spirits of the dead before you. Last part of this. Because of the destruction of Tisgau, there were hundreds of thousands of people rendered homeless and destitute, and groups were surging about in all places, crying out for food or for some needful thing. Ahura Mazda said to Zarathustra, the all pure, the ill fortune of mortals is the good fortune of the righteous gods, but the good fortune of mortals is the glory of the evil gods. Think not that because Tisgau is burned and the people hungry, the voice of the Father is out of place. Now is the time they will give ear. By the loss of earthly treasures, the soul seeketh for that which will endure forever. Go thou, therefore, O Zarathustra, and I will go with thee, and criers shall be sent out, calling the people to the valley of Toskia this night. Tosokia? So it came about when night set in, Zarathustra came before the people, and there were tens of thousands of them. Ahura Mazda spake to them, explaining the Oahsmanian law. When he was done speaking, he took Hytius, the king's widow, her children, and 40 others, and made a crescent of them, and stood betwixt the horns of that thereof. And to his left and right were many of his companions. Thus Zarathustra sang a song, which as the Ihins had taught him in the youth. And the Drudras were ushered into the crescent, taking on Sigris, the king amongst the number. And the spirit of the king was softened, and they sang to his peace, soul and joy forever. And presently he awoke from his craziness and remembered he was dead. And he rejoiced in Zarathustra and applauded him before all the people. And likewise the spirits of the darkness who were with him did in the same manner. Zarathustra said before, and behold, I have not come in a dark age. Ye shall not worship any man born of a woman, nor call him scared. One only, who is Oahsman, the creator, is master over all the world. Hear ye now my voice unto him. Zarathustra stretched his arms upward, full of energy, and Ahura Mazda spake through him, saying, Light of light, O Father, hear thou thy son. With thy almighty hand bless thou these faithful sufferers. Hardly had these words been spoken, when there fell from the air above fish and fruit and grains and roots, and all things good to eat, more than sufficient to feed the famished people for 3 days. And there were more than 30,000 of them. And all this while the Sagris of the king looked on and beheld what had been done. And he cried out with a loud voice, Blessed art thou, O Oahsman. Oh, that I had known thee. Oh, that I had sought to find thee. Hytius, my wife, and my blessed babes, swear to ye the king, ye will proclaim the Ahura Mazda law forever. Swear it. Give me joy. Swear, swear, swear. Then Hytius and the children held their hands as directed by Ahura Mazda, swearing a solemn oath to maintain the love of Oahsman and the Zarathustrian law forever. After these, there came thousands and thousands of others who also swore in the same way. Ahura Mazda then took away the Sagris, and the spirits could not be seen by mortals. Now to the book of Fragapatti. And once again, I will be mispronouncing lots of names. and all that fun. So I do apologize in advance. If any of those who are Oahspe scholars could maybe help me with pronouncing these things and names right, I will love you forever. But I love you all anyway. But it's just very, very frustrating because I don't like to do that. When the time of recreation was ended, Fragapatti ascended the throne of Jehovah and signaled to the marshals to proclaim order and labor, and at once the vast multitude took their places, and in the same instance the Asuers discoursed music with the anthems, the which, when finished, was the signal for business. Heavenly Fragapatti said, again am I about to depart, and again to leave the god of Maru, Atharava, with you, and Horeb, and such of his hosts as I may choose shall go with me. For according to the rank and glory of gods, I must now deliver Hapacha and his kingdom of Ipsogi, raised from Gautama. Thereupon Fragapatti descended to the foot of the throne and sat down, and Atharava, god of dawn of Maru, came down and took him by the hand in ancient manner and said, behold, thou hast honored my throne, and the time of thy departure is upon thee. Arise then, O God, and go thy way. And Fragapatti rose up and stood aside and signaled for Horeb to go and be raised in the same manner, the which he did, becoming wise in the behavior of gods toward one another. The marshals had filed 50,000 attendants besides 10,000 ensuers, and at a signal from Fragapatti marched forth out of the capital, followed by hosts of Horeb and 100,000 Etherians. And when they were once beyond the lights of Maru, behold, some of the hosts of Horeb rejoiced because they were better pleased to be where they was less light. Yet there were 700 millions of them who rejoiced not, but rather loved the light more. Then Fragapatti said, it was well that not all are of one mind. The 700 million who love the light more shall be my traveling companions to Ipsogi, because they are strong and light. I have work for them, but the others shall be taken back to Zedho, whether I will also come in due time. And after they are settled in Zedho, behold, I will send a god to them, and they shall find a new kingdom in Jehovah's name. Let all hands, therefore, enter upon the Alvanzia, following me. At once the host entered the ship, and Fragapatti gave the word to be off. And they sped forth direct from Zedho, led by swift messengers who knew the nearest route and the lightest places. And the route taken was through the sea of Fo, Wichha, and the Orem of Hati. Hardly had they gotten underway when the light of upper heavens began to descend on Horeb. Those excitement from the wondrous scenes made him propitious, and feeling the buoyancy of the light, and he thus held forth, saying, how could I forget thee, O Jehovah, or thy purpose observe, and deny thee designs? How saw I not that at my quickening in my mother's womb I was the furthest from thee, and yet even then thy breath was upon me. And then thou, sorry guys, that was a cat hair. Thou didst send thy angels to me, saying, behold, thy creator liveth, life of his own thou art, flesh of his flesh created he thee, and he gave thee thyself in proof of himself. In the earth was I conceived, housed up in darkness, of thyself built up, nor was I of myself anything under the sun. And thou createdst the honeybee and bade him speak to me for my own benefit. He said, behold me, O man, I am a worker. In a community, I live with my brothers and sisters. I shut my eyes to things sour and bitter, and I store my house with sweet provender only. Soul of man, hear me. I am the voice of thy creator. Behold the harmony of my house and the provision I make for my newborn. And thou createst the ant and bade him speak to me for my own benefit. He said, behold me, O man, I am a worker. In a community, I live with my brothers and sisters. Soul of man, hear me. I am the voice of thy creator. Behold the industry of mine house and the burdens we bear jointly into our stores. And thou createst the spider and bade him speak to me. He said, behold me, O man, I am one with thy creator. By the spirit of things I move, by the geometrical figures of the unseen world, I build my house. Think not that I reason or take lessons. I move the spirit within me, and I moveth in concert with the spirit of things without. Hear me, spirit of man. There are two ways to knowledge before thee. One is by the soul of things, and one by reason. And thou heldest up before my eyes continually that the unseen rulest over the seen. Then I became vain before thee, O Jehovah. I said, when I am dead and born a spirit, then will I see the unseen and cannot err more. But lo, my folly in thy sight. When I was risen in spirit, I saw the spirit of things. But alas, the soul laid still beyond. And to me, the soul was now the unseen cause and ruler over the spirit. Again, thy holy ones came from the ethereal world, speaking to me, saying, and yet beyond the soul cometh nirvana. Now have I beholden thy crystal spheres and thy matchless glories. Yeah, I look into the sea of foe, which whether I had often glazed before, seeing nothing then, but now beholding ships laden with gods and goddesses. From thy Nirvanian fields, in higher works and worlds moving, and thy fire stirreth me to the soul, to expand the mastery of these atmospherian heavens. Oh, that I could vent the hallowed glory thou hast bestowed upon me. Oh, that I could thank thee for the happiness I have because thou createst me. Oh, that I could open up the souls of men to behold thy wondrous works and the majesty of becoming one with thee, thou mightiest Jehovah. Oh, that they would hear me and believe me. Oh, that they would not turn away from light. Oh, that they could learn to glorify thee every day for the little light and little joy they receive. How like gods and goddesses would they become in thy kingdoms, but they harbor discontent. They discourse on the little they have received from thee. Like the canker worm that groweth to devour, they feed their sorrows by recounting them over and over. For pain they cry out, for disappointment they weep. Yeah, they feel, sorry guys, ow. They feed their own darkness with darkness, and in the end forget thou art all light. Orbs ceased but glazed at the coursing ships in the atmospheric heavens, whereupon Fragapatti said, behold thy wisdom, O Jehovah, whom thou wouldest make strong. Thou hast made to feel adversaries' sting. For the emergencies that lie ahead, thou plannest thy gods to run near the cliffs, whereupon millions perish. Who can obtain to know the wisdom, O Jehovah? Who can comprehend the millions of the sons and daughters? And yet thou knowest every one, and carriest them by a breath. So gently they feel thee not, nor know thee. To a very hair's breadth thou takest them, and in the time of desperation thy hand cometh to the rescue of the righteous. Man saith, now will I fortify myself with riches and houses and all manner of possessions. Adversity shall not come upon me. I have more faith in my possessions than in Jehovah. Mine is a kingdom I can see, but Jehovah is far off. but thou art suffering him in his vanity to go away from thee for a season. Sooner or later thou bringest him in with a short turn, either on earth or in heaven. And he goeth down as an example to hundreds and thousands, and he envied him. Thou hast set up the poor man in faith, he toiled day and night. He is weary and sore, he crieth out with hunger. His rags are a shame to him, but he remembereth thee, O Jehovah. In thy praise he singeth a song in his soul every day. To do good unto others is his great delight. And thy hand reacheth down to him in time after his soul is like a giant. Thou hast planned him for a very God in heaven. The spark of faith that was in him he nurtured, and he became as a mighty tree that fell not down before the blast. See, dyslexia is happening now. The good he received, he exalted, and it is fanciful and grew as a harvest in rich soil, and he stood mightily in all places. And thy praise are his songs, and they endured forever. His psalms are the voice of thy loves, and the multitude of thy people remember him. While us all else are cut down and destroyed, they work hath a sure foundation. Thy wisdom stands before man's wisdom. Not one hath found a failure in thy word, as it speaketh to his own soul. Thy labor is for a subtle and unseen, thy footstool the cause of causes. But the vain man looked to thy object. He turneth thy ways upside down. He maketh the cart to push the horse, and thou sufferest him to drink the fill of his own vanity. And when he runneth himself into torments, thou findest a way to reach him and bring him home to thee. Great is the glory when he findeth thee. His voice becometh the love of thy loves forever. For thou hadst shape him as an example and give him scope to run his extreme for his own glory. Yeah, thou hadst planned him for one of thy great workers that would go not down afterward. On the way to Zedho, Fragapatti and his hosts in Albanza were joined by a ship of 1,000,000,000 explorers for the north regions, 1,000 times further than the North Star of the 7th magnitude of light, even 3 higher than Fragapatti. Katu, the chief of command of the expedition, greeted in the sign Jehovah's name, the which Fragapatti answered, and by certain signals the ship approached and made fast the ensuers of the twain, singing and playing the same anthem, 5,000,000 voices, and half as many trumpeters. Then Katu came near to Fragapatti, saluting, and the host stood in line so they might hear what was said. So after due ceremonies and acquainting each other who they were, whence they came, and such like, they spake Katu, saying, I see thou hast thy ship ballasted with the north magnet. Fragapatti said, this is but a 5 years dawn, and I teach my hosts how to ballast, that they may the better read the maps and roadways and stars and suns. Of these, my hosts, 500,000,000 have become capable of being delivered into Etheria, save in cosmogony. I am providing them that when they shall have ascended, they may not be lost in the Etherian worlds or be departed on others. Katu said, what is the length of this serpent? Fragapatti said, 7 1/8 Hoitamu, and that he asked Katu what distance he had come from his home. And Katu said, 1,412,832 Hatum. Hoyumi. Hatu. Not getting that out. What time hath the journey yet before thee? Katu said, 500,000 years. Then Fragapatti inquired how many star worlds Katu had so far passed on his journey, and Katu said, 20,000 star worlds we have passed, and some smaller than this red star, and some 10,000 times larger, some of them yet liquid balls of fire, some newly crusted over, some with atmosphere and water and earth and minerals not yet separated, but boiling, seething, whirling, some firm and just entering age of Samu, and some old and worn out, and one we just passed, which had become barren as to living creatures, and the God, through whose pastures it passed, dissolved and dissipated it before us, having invited thousands of millions of guests to witness the scene. Of atmospheric worlds, we have passed more than 90,000, some of them larger than the vortex of this red star and capable of giving homes to 1,000,000 times 1,000,000 of inhabitants. And yet on many of them, there were no people. Thus they discoursed on the size and wonder of Jehovah's kingdoms, but their numbers and descriptions only the gods themselves could comprehend. They were so vast, and when they had about concluded, Katu remarked, the mortal desireth to become a spirit, then his ambition is to become an Etherian, next an Orion, next a Nirvanian, next an Otian, and then to travel to the surveys of magnitudes. But those ahead are still more surpassing in magnificence. Who then can approach the unapproachable, all highest, he who fashioned the plan of all creation? Who is there that is not swallowed up with the devotion and awe of him who is ever present, that extendeth beyond all limit, our Father, Jehovah. When they drew near Zedho, Katu with his ship and hosts withdrew, duly saluting, and they sped on their journey. But Fragapatti halted on the borders of Zedho and landed 700 millions of his hosts and others remaining aboard. Again, the Alvanza put forth. Fragapatti said, now will I visit Yanti, Lord God of North Gautama, and see what he hath accomplished, and perchance he will accompany us to Isbogi to see Hapacha, my well-loved god of the west wind. Now, when they came to the sea of Zevatwich, they raised the Avanza of 50,000 miles for the benefit of hope, for they lieth the roadway of Thames, whither pass countless numbers of fleets filled with students in the dismembered works belonging to the earth. Here the students learn the process of condensation and the process of dissolution of meteoric stones and small planets, such as mortal could walk around one of them in a day. On the outer extreme of the sea, the nebulae is in constant waves, where the vortices play, condensing and bursting like whirlwinds on the earth or corporeal ocean. Here Fragapatti explains, saying, in this thou shalt behold the wisdom of Jehovah and the uniformity of his works. Here lieth the first belt away from the earth, capable of having nebulae condensed into meteoric stones. All there attract to the earth or repulse from it. Compute therefore distance of this belt from the earth, together with its density, and thou shalt find that is the same distance that the warp belts are, with the stars in the firmament of the size of the earth, and it is density and velocity. The first warp belt of the sun is therefore the place of its nearest planet. The second warp belt is the place of its next nearest planet, and so on. And these warp belts are graded in distance according to as I have spoken. Jehovah hath said, 2 ways have I created for my mathematicians to prove my works. One is to measure that which is near at hand in order to determine that which is far off. The other is to observe that which is far off in order to determine that which is near. For since man could not measure the warp belts of this world, I provided him with the means to determine the work belts of the sun, as that he might the better comprehend his own world. That man might find still further evidence of the earth's work belts. I created the nearest one with different densities, so that not every year on earth would be alike as to heat and cold. And in certain cycles of Dan, I condensed the first work belts, so that the sun seemeth to mortals as if eclipsed. For it is upon this belt that my cycles of Dan give either light or darkness to mortals spiritually. Yet let man compute my times for his own profit. I created the first work to gain in rotation faster the earth 1 year for every 11, so that when the work hath made 12 of its own years, the earth shall have completed 11 years. Fragapatti caused the Avanza to be driven in amidst a forest of whirlwinds, to illustrate and to explain, so the host might observe. He said, thou shalt perceive now that such stones are condensed beneath the apex fall to the earth, whilst those ascending frequently rise toward the lighter plateau and explode to be attracted back within the work belt. This belt compareth unto the cloud belt near the earth. Thither the wind currents make raindrops and snowflakes. Here the currents make the first nebulous formations that come under the name Kapur. Whilst Fragapatti was thus discoursing the Avanza rock to and fro, the many of the people perceived now more than ever the knowledge and power required by angels and gods to contend successfully with the elements, but the beauty and grandeur of the fountains, these fire spouts and whirlwinds on fire, together with the roar and whistling of the firestones, so entrapped Horde and his hosts, they could not do naught but look and wonder at the glory thereof. For 7 days and 7 nights did Fragapatti and his host travel in the work belt, observing and studying these miniature worlds, creating and dissipating, and on the 8th day, the Avanza was lowered beneath the currents, and they sailed direct for the kingdom of Yetonti, the lord of the North Gautama, piloted by messengers well acquainted with the course, but not being in a much frequent roadway, they encountered few ships or processions of other gods. Yet Tonte had been appraised of Fragapatti's coming, and had according notified his kingdom and summoned 70 of his lords to his capital, which was named after himself. So Yetonte commanded his Avantan to be put in order and light, and having provided 500 eschewers in addition to his crew, together with his lords and tens of thousands of attendants, forward and forth to the borders of Hakka, 1,000 miles to meet Fragapatti. But lo and behold, the Avantan was only as a small boat is to a ship when compared to the Alvanza. And accordingly, when they approached each other, Fragapatti caused the front of the Avanza to be opened, and at this place the Avantan entered within the walls and was made fast. And the hosts of the Avantan came out and were received with great joy by Fragapatti and his peoples. Thou 1,000 miles north of the northern line of the sun on the earth, in the middle betwixt the east and the west from North Gautama, and from the earth upward and without intervening space 500 miles, had Yanti founded his kingdom, and hither it was the Fragapatti came to see him. 500 miles westward lay Lispogi, extending north and south 2,000 miles, where reigned the good faithless Hapacha style god of the west wind. After the Avanza reached Yanti's capital, and the host duties landed in the lower heaven, Yanti ascended his throne, and after due ceremonies of welcome and thanksgiving, and with music rendering praise to the All High, Yetonti proceeded creation for 3 days and 3 nights. Then spake Fragapatti to him, saying, I am glad of this, because I desire to hear the story of thy adventures, and of thy success in this kingdom. For thy record must also be record to be taken with us at the end of this dawn to heaven above. Horeb and his host shall also hear thy words. Yatante replied, what I have done. Nevertheless, he who hath built great kingdoms may find little to admire in a small one. Fragapatti said, I have seen old men who doted more on a grandchild than on a large family. They had bread themselves. And it is not a wise provision of our Creator that he bestow us with such means as enableth us at all times to live over again our past history in the youth. Every hour we find a new way open to remind us of our follies in youth, and also a new channel in which to behold Jehovah's wisdom. Yatante said, if a man convert his neighbor from evil into good, two great things are accomplished, the triumph of the man and the reformation of the neighbor. If, on the other hand, a man fail to convert his neighbor from evil to good, two misfortunes have transpired, which are the disappointment of one and the loss of glory of Jehovah. It is a strong man that can recount his own failures and say he glorifieth the Father because thereof. Fragapatti said, how shall we measure magnitudes, O Yatanti? Hath not a mortal that hath delivered one Druk into light as great a glory as a God that delivereth hundreds of thousands? Is not the one as great magnitude as the other? According to our worthiness in righteous persistence, no matter what our limit is, it is not this great glory Jehovah gave to man to first learn to deliver himself, to master himself, to rule himself in the all highest. He who can do this is a great ruler. And then the next time Jehovah gaveth him to rule over a small kingdom, perhaps a drunkard or a wanton, or even over his own family to be righteous. He that doeth this is a great ruler. Is not then man's persistence in righteousness the whole glory of his kingdom? Yatanti said, the Father knoweth, to try and to try and to try, this is the sum of the good a man doeth. And yet what man is there in heaven or on earth, but can find an apology for the good work he accomplished? Doth not the poor man say, oh, if I had this, what great good I would have accomplished? And the rich man maketh the same speech, and the king also. And yet Jehovah hath given a kingdom to each and every one of them. But he who can say, I have done all I could according to my strength and wisdom, rateth amongst the highest of men and gods. Heareth me then, O Fragapatti, and thou mayest best understand, suffer thyself to forget all the light of high heaven, and to be in a place of darkness, where 3,000 million spirits are vagrants, scattered far and wide on the corporal earth. Such was Asua in the kingdom, but the spirits congregated not together in hells, as they did in the east. They had no association, no gods, no lords. They were perpetual migrants, save such as dwelt with the Druks as familiars. And as to the spirits of those who died in infancy, they were taken by the spirits of their fathers and mothers or others and cared for until they also gained sufficient knowledge to serve them as vagrants. And there was the end. And strange to say, all these spirits were without clothes or drapery of any kind and devoid of shame. Neither were they good or evil, nor had they desired for or knowledge of a higher heaven, being content to rove about, to sleep, and to eat. And they had 1,000 languages, or at least 1,000 different kinds of signs and utterances, which they had acquired on earth, but lost and mixed up, so that either lords nor gods can converse with them. Thus I surveyed them and found them before I built this capital, for which I reasoned I came thus centrally amongst them. Know also, O chief, that I traveled peril in hope and gain their aspiration, but alas, there neither smile nor frown on my fine shows. but vacantly gaze at us or even fall asleep, whilst our Abanton was pervaded before them. Then I came hither and built this capital and founded Jehovah's throne. Thereon thou now honorest me. And then I sent to them here and there presents of gaudy attire in hope to inspire multitude through the few. But alas, those I attire soon divested themselves of their clothes, preferring nakedness. Thus ended my second failure. After this, I sent 100,000 preachers to them to portray the greater glory of higher heaven. But alas, they heeded not, or if heeding in a day, would forget all that had been told them, and thus ended the third failure. Then we held a holy council, imploring Jehovah for light and power, and his voice came upon me, saying, Go to their loves, my son, go to the mortals, being thou with the Essenes. Then I commanded my host to go and live for a season amongst mortals, and they brought the Essenes to Yanti, under guard of the Asifs. And the next of kin followed, desiring a remain, and said unto them, Behold, my place is fair, and my people are clothed. Save ye be clothed also. Ye cannot dwell with us, nor shall ye more look upon your next of kin, whom I take for myself. And for love there came many mothers and fathers and brothers and sisters belonging to the recent dead, and they suffered themselves to be clothed, and these were the first in my kingdom. Again I called my hosts together, and I said unto them, 1,000 lords I must have. I will divide North Guantama amongst my lords, and they shall dwell with mortals, having sufficiently of Ashars to give to each and every mortal, man and woman and child. And whether by natural death or by war, it matter not, the Essenes shall be brought to my kingdom. This I accomplished, providing nurseries and places of entertainment for such as were brought hither. But alas, the tens of thousands of spirits who thus came because of their kin and accepted clothing for sake of remaining had little talent to talk or even desire for anything. At the next holy council, the light came to me, saying, Hear the voice of thy creator, O my son, because thou hast been diligent in striving for the resurrection of my children. I am come to thee. Behold, I created man naked and with shame as the foundation of industry, but because these people followed in the Osiris age, the abandonment of spirit communion, whilst they were yet mortal, they lost the light of my countenance. Neither canst thou inspire them to industry, save through clothing the body. But first of all, thou shalt make them ashamed of nakedness, otherwise there is no higher resurrection for them. Then I required of the Creator how I should teach them shame. He said of themselves to themselves for themselves, Thou canst do little, but thou shalt inspire them through mortals. Every plateau shall be 1,000 miles in breadth every way, save the lowest, which shall be 2,000 miles with the right. Sorry, guys, having a mouth issue. Giving themselves, thou canst do little, but thou shalt inspire through mortals. Every plateau shall be 1,000 miles breadth away, save the lowest, which shall be 2,000 miles with the rays of 1 degree. So the plateau shall extend from the earth to thy kingdom, like a stairway, one plateau higher than another. And the Lord shall provide for the lowest and for the second lowest plateau, subjective entertainments, subjective teaching, and subjective things in general. Neither shall there be anything real on these 2 plateaus, save the inhabitants of their food and their mirrors and lenses and machinery for producing subjectives. And the lower plateau, being on earth, shall be provide a mirage, having everything spiritual in appearance as they have corporeally on earth. And it shall be provided with forests, lakes, and rivers, and with a manner of animals and birds and fish, and of whatsoever is suitable food for mortals. And the lowest plateau shall be called Hochdawa, signifying happy hunting ground. And thou shalt send for word to thy Lord, saying, Thus saith thy Creator, Behold, I have created a place, and it's called Hochidawa. Teach ye this to mortals by inspiration and otherwise, saying also to them, Go tell one another, for after death the soul shall go thither in great delight. And ye shall say unto them, Save ye wear garments to hide your nakedness. Ye shall not enter Hochidawa. I hope I'm saying that right. Yet Tanti said, when the lowest plateau was made habitable, covering a large portion of Gautama, the voice came again, saying, Through thy lords, my son shall possess all mortals, every man and woman and child, suffering not one of the Judras to come near them. And behold, I will send upon the land in many places great droughts, because of this construction of thy plateau, and these wandering spirits shall not find sustenance, save but through thee and the Lord's. And as fast as they come, thou shalt oblige them to be clothed and draped about the loins, but thou shalt show preference to such as wear ornaments. Yatanti said, This much have we accomplished, O Fragapatti, the foundation of my heavenly kingdom is broad and sure, but as yet I have few subjects to show thee. Fragapatti said, Behold, I will take 2 days of rest, and then I will inspect thy places, proclaim therefore recreation for 2 days. When the recreation was ended, Yatanti called his council together, and he sat on the throne, and Fragapatti and Horeb sat on his left hand on the throne also. The voice of Jehovah came to Yatanti, saying, Behold, O my sons and daughters, this heaven and this land shall not be like any other place, for hither shall rise in time after. They shall begin the founding of my kingdom amongst mortals, for in the lands of the east and the heavens of the east, I have given the lords and gods before whom they fall down and worship. But in these heavens and this land beneath it shall not be given any lord or god, nor any person born of woman or their resurrection. To this end have I created the subjective heaven and her plateau, and they shall enter till the dawn of Cosmon and the overthrow of the war and mortal kingdoms. From this throne will I come in that day through my chiefs and reveal the histories of my kingdoms, and I will radiate outward around about from this heaven until my kingdoms encircle the whole earth, and until the earth's heavens are mine also. And whether the Ihumans be mortals or spirits, ye shall not have teach them to worship anyone save the Great Spirit. For a question will raise amongst mortals in the beginning of Cosmon, as to whether mortals are ruled by the angels of heaven, and I will prove it before them that in this land of gods and lords and saviors shall be cast out, and mortals shall become worshippers of the Great Spirit, being ruled to the end by the inspiration that shall descend from the heavens through the spirits of the human race, and they shall know that I, Jehovah, alone rule over all and within all my works. Be wise, my sons and daughters, for as ye now find little aspiration amongst the hosts of wandering spirits, so will the same lack of aspiration be manifested in the beginning of the Cosmon amongst mortals. The voice ceased. Yatanti calling it, seeing his assistant god, saying, Come thou and sit on the throne. I will go now for 40 days with Fragapatti and show him all my works, and I will go also with him to Hapacha, god of Espoji, after which I will return hither. Estine came and sat on the throne, duly saluting, having been anointed and crowned previously. Then rose up Fragapatti to speak, perceiving that the great multitude desired to hear him. He said, In what they have done, I am well pleased, O Jehovah. Through thy voice I select them, and they deserve neither praise nor censure, being thy servants. Thou hastily wise chosen them, for in this dawn I perceive the foundation of that which will receive mortals in the third Danha, then cometh after. And because thou hast chosen this place, O Father, great in the responsibility of these thy lords and thy God, because they have supplicated thee, thou hast guided them, and they cannot err, because their work hath been slow. They have great honor and patience and persistence. May thy wisdom, power, love continue with them for thy glory now and forever. Amen. Fragapatti ceased, for the light became brilliant above his head, and the voice came out of the light, saying, more shall they concern themselves in a righteous foundation of my kingdom than in the multitude of conversions and resurrections. For the standard of their lords and gods and their successors is more value than 10 of thousands of redeemed, who are of little wisdom and strength. For the latter will be raised upward afterward. The voice ceased, and Fragapatti came down from the throne, followed by Yatanti and Horb. The ensuers enchanted, all hail, great Jehovah power, his light, the immortal voice. And when the gods advanced to Situs, they halted, standing abreast, and then filed in front of the throne, saluting the sign of and were answered by Fragapatti. Lastly came the marshals of the traveling hosts, and when they passed, the gods followed after. Thus, passing out of the capital to the place of the ships, fire, followed by the inhabitants of Yatanti. Thus they entered the Avanza with music and cheering, and thus they departed, first to survey the kingdom of Yatanti, and then to go to Oahspe. Yeah, guys, sorry about that. And that actually ends this. Something's wrong with this situation in my face. I don't know what it is. Something's not working. Either way, I'm going to go rest. I hope you guys enjoyed that portion of Oahspe, the book of Fragapatti. Sending each and every one of you love and light. Just be very mindful that in the beginning I spoke about my situation. The next phase of torture, of using my muscles, they really hurt and they're very sore. And again, I'm doing this myself. Not easy. So doing all that lifting and moving back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth sucks. But it's going to get done, just slowly. So I hope each and every one of you has a fantastic rest of the week. Just be patient with me, please. I love you guys, and I really thank you for all your love and support and your well wishes. It's stinky. I'm happy I'm getting into a better situation. I am really excited to start like making a space, an office space, where I can do these readings comfortably with space and get back to my oracle cards and really decorate and have fun with it. But that's going to take some time. But I will try to get these readings out as much as I possibly can. So I do thank you for bearing with me. Again, keep the light shining high, and I'll see you on the next one.